Right now, the issue of tax came up several times. I know some people are itching to talk about rain tax. So I'm going to open the floor to the discussion as we go down the road. For each of you to take 60 seconds to speak about rain tax and tax policy in general for the district.
Well, there is actually no rain tax in the state of Maryland. It is called that to make it sound bad. We have a bay. It is the treasure of Maryland and the surrounding states. It is a hub of economic activity and economic development. It's also a place where people go to play. People from out of state, which brings lots of tourism dollars, but also us. We go to the state, to the bay, and we enjoy the water. This is really important. People go fishing. If we have runoff, and when you put down concrete or you put down asphalt, pollutants, instead of soaking into the ground and getting filtered before they go to the bay, run off to the bay. So we have to find ways to improve the water that goes into the bay. And guess what? It's not free. It costs money. So there is a tax that helps with the pollution and keeping our bay, hopefully making it better and better over time. Thank you.
I'm glad that Delegate Pendergrass said that it's not called the rain tax, because that was going to be the first thing that I said. It's not the rain tax. We actually have a stormwater fee that was federally mandated for those states that abut the bay to protect our future and to protect our children's future for the simple reasons that Delegate Pendergrass just mentioned in terms of runoff into the bay, in terms of our drinking water. So that's what that fee is used for. I think the term rain tax is a scare tactic to scare people and to think that, you know, it rains and we pay this tax, but that's not necessarily the case. It's a federally mandated implementation to protect our future.
I don't care what you call it, whether it's a rain tax or it's another name. This is an item that really needs to be descended. If we take a look at it right now, we have other states that surround the Chesapeake Bay. We've got New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Delaware, of course Maryland. And of those states, only Maryland was so duped into paying for this particular tax. Now, in the state, of 24 jurisdictions, only 10 pay. But if I look at the counties and city counties outside in New York and the others, that's 289 counties and cities that are part, and only 10 are saddled with this tax. So I think it's not really doing much for the bay. I think it's just taking money out of our pockets.
Thank you. Again, I'm Jimmy Williams, and again, to echo what Chris just said, rather you call it a rain tax or a stormwater management fee, the fact it is on your property tax bill and it is taking more money out of your pocket and it is damaging your quality of life. Ms. Atterbury touched on the fact that this is federally mandated. If it's federally mandated, why did New York and Pennsylvania say no? The question we need to ask is, would this rain tax, this stormwater management fee, even be necessary if my opponents hadn't taken votes over the last 5 years to divert over $125 million out of the Chesapeake Bay Trust Fund for general government operations? I don't care if they have supposedly paid that money back since then. They never should have touched it to begin with. Also, too, we need to look at the bigger pollution issues. Stormwater runoff accounts for 2, maybe 3% of the pollution in the Chesapeake Bay. 40% of that pollution comes from behind the Conowingo Dam up in northern Maryland, from Pennsylvania, from New York. 5 billion pounds of sediment comes through the Conowingo Dam into the Chesapeake Bay every year. We need to make this a multi-state effort with Pennsylvania and New York. Serious solutions. Taxing 13% or levying a stormwater management fee on 13% of the Chesapeake Bay watershed is not going to make the problem go away.
So again, Danny Eaton, running for state delegate. Just for the record, I don't support the rain tax. But I want to talk about the environment's important, tax policy is important, and really what I want to talk about the next minute is, again, tax code should not be used to pick winners and losers. It should be used to incentivize entrepreneurs to risk private capital. And when we talk about the environment, it's private people, private companies that are going to really change the environment. Really quickly, we've got Elon Musk, who created Tesla, and today Lockheed Martin, Maryland company, has just announced that they have created the fusion, right? So nuclear fission creates energy, but it has a lot of bad problems to it. But today they announced they've been able to develop fusion. Lockheed Martin, Maryland company, and that company they're talking about in 3 years to use fusion to transform. So when we talk about being energy independent, it's companies like that, private entrepreneurs, who are really going to make the difference. And again, it was announced today. They've created fusion, and that will really make us energy independent entrepreneurs.
Please keep the microphone. The next question is, what would you do to resolve school overcrowding issues across the district?
I think this gets really to the zoning questions, which I believe really are on the county level. But as I just mentioned earlier, I was not active, and I made the mistake of not being active in trying to make citizens' voice, allow them to be heard on these questions. So again, I think these are county decisions, and if elected, I will do a much better job of joining your community to make sure that when these decisions are brought up and discussed, that people have the right to be heard.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Again, I'm Jimmy Williams. School overcrowding is a huge issue in Howard County. We see it here at Bowman Bridge, where we have 730 students, as the PTA president said at the outset of this forum. That is way too many students in an elementary school. It really is. We need to make sure that the county is updating ATFO. As a member of the General Assembly, while I won't have direct influence on ATFO at the county level, I will be using the bully pulpit to make sure that the county takes a look at ATFO and actually gets it updated. Because we do not need to, our kids are getting a disservice by being taught in trailers, by being bussed all over the county. I was out in Emerson door knocking and found out that the kids in Emerson go to Appleton. Why are they going so far away? They should be at Reservoir. We are having a huge problem with this, and it needs to be taken care of. I will apply the pressure where my opponents have failed, and we will get this done.
I also agree. We think this is more of a county problem. But let me look at it a different way. What happens when these kids get out of school? I mean, where's their jobs? We chased 8,688 jobs out of the state. We have 31,000 people who already left the state. I think we ought to take a look at maybe the policies that we have that will keep jobs in the state for these people when they get out of school.
Speaking in terms of what an actual state delegate could do, I think Delegate Gazzoning, who's here, and Delegate Pendergrass and Delegate Turner have done an excellent job in making sure that we, from the state level, have sent to Howard County a significant amount of funding for school construction. And that is something that I would continue to support.
Thank you. It's an interesting question to be asked. It is to a great extent a county issue. And that brings me back to my start in county government. I ran as president of this Savage Community Association many, many years ago. And I ran for office the first time because my daughter took a test on the floor in first grade at what's now what was then Whiskey Bottom Elementary School, what's now Laurel Woods. And I asked why, and I was told because the school was so crowded there was nowhere else for the class to take the test. And I said, that's really not acceptable. And this community, I'm going to say, pushed me to run. This community was incredible. We took on a task that was so huge, and we built this school. This is what we did. We made sure the next school to get built in Howard County was this school that we're standing in. And this community also worked with me to make sure that Forest Ridge was not a huge truck stop. Most of you may not know that. Some of you may remember it. That was supposed to be a huge truck stop, and working with this community, the surrounding community, and the Rouse Company, actually, whose property it was, we got that stopped, and you now have that school.
Thank you.
Will I get the next one?
You did.